just going to get draws in? He's like, I hope not. How's that working out for you? Come on. Come on.
Get together.
Oh, Turtenwald to your right. He's got elves versus Patrick Sullivan on your left playing Burn.
We have Caleb Scherer on the left. He is playing Burn. Pretty classic list. Goblin Glide and Grim Lavamancer as the 8 creatures. Ripple, Lightning Bolt, Lava Spike, Chain, Lightning, Price of Progress, Fire Blast, Flame Rift, 2 Vortex, 2 Searing Blaze.
Do you think anyone knows what he's up against now?
The mystery has been revealed.
Mountain, Lava Spike, let's get this legacy party started here in Milwaukee, my friends. Turtenwald, of course, former player of the year. Who knows how many Grand Prix top 8s. He's in the 13-14 category. Back-to-back Grand Prix wins late last year in Washington, D.C. and Albuquerque. Also our first Standard Open champion of 2014 in Indianapolis with Mono Black Devotion. Didn't have a great day yesterday, but he's off to a beautiful start today. He's going to sacrifice a Wooded Foothills. He's going to go down to 19. We'll see if it's going to be a basic forest or a bayou in this situation. He's going to go with a beautiful basic forest. Again, this is one of our most accomplished players in the field. Number 21 on our Star City Games player leaderboard for Season 2. This is a valuable weekend for him to be able to get some points and work his way towards that Season 2 qualification to the Players' Championship.
Yeah, in striking distance, with a couple good weekends here of being able to be the Season 2 point getter, and of course the potential for one of the 8 invites at the end of the year, very live as well.
He's got a Deathrite Shaman, a fantastic card against the Burn deck, and fantastic in general. As you see, Caleb does pick up a copy of Fire Blast.
So many people assume this matchup is very good for Burn, and there are a couple of very powerful cards in Caleb's list. Grim Lavamancer, of course, suppresses a lot of Elves' action, and Searing Blaze allows you to contain the Elf player's board while also dealing damage. But left unopposed, the Elf deck is actually a faster kill than Burn. Elves reliably goes off on turn 3. Only Burn's best draws can really do that, and so without Grim Lavamancer or without Searing Blaze, I actually think Caleb is behind in the matchup.
Yeah, this is a little bit interesting here because Turtenwald did draw 2 fetch lands this game. He's going to play a copy of Birchlore Rangers. He's going to tap 2 elves to provide a green mana. It'll give him a Quirion Ranger. So he needs to work his way towards a turn 3. At the very latest, turn 4 kill. He's going to have some real issues. But let's keep in mind as well that because of the 2 fetch lands he's played, it's a little bit hairy. He's dealing with some points of damage. I think the problem here for Caleb is that he's drawn 2 copies of Price of Progress this game, which aren't very good in the matchup.
No, they are not. I mean, the Elves deck does have Bayous. It does have Guy's Crittles, of course. It's very rare that Price of Progress is going to deal any more than 2 damage. I believe it will be the first card that Caleb boards out in the matchup.
Now, we are going to see Turtenwald search up a Dryad Arbor here. So, Price of Progress is going to be a little bit more live in this situation. Again, it's not going to be great. Turtenwald only does have 1 basic force in his deck, which is pretty standard nowadays in these Elves decks.
If Owen commits a second non-basic land to the board, then Caleb's got a real good shot.
Yeah.
If Owen's able to keep it like this, Caleb's going to be in trouble unless he draws another 1-mana bolt. Maybe Searing Blaze gives him a lot of action here.
Now, keep in mind, Quirion Ranger, return a forest you control to owner's hand, untap target creature, so at a moment's notice, in response to Price of Progress, Owen can actually use the Quirion Ranger to pick up the Dryad Arbor, so there will be no non-basic in play on his side. So he can get a little tricksy there.
Also worth noting that Owen has drawn the Craterhoof Behemoth.
And there are 2 copies of that.
Okay.
Typically, that's what you'll find now as well. Pretty stock Elves list, honestly. A lot of 4 Elves, 2 Craterhoofs, 2 Birchlore Rangers, 1 copy of Finhorn Elves to be able to give them a little bit more acceleration, along with 4 Glimpse of Natures, 4 Green Sun Zeniths, 3 Natural Orders. Among his lands, plenty of non-basics, and 4 of them, the most important, are Guy's Cradle. He's going to cast a Green Sun Zenith here. It's going to be for 1. So will there be a response here from Scherer?
I think he just has to let this go.
Yeah, he wants to fire for Price Progress, but I don't think he can. So he will let that go. See if Turtenwald wants to search up as far as 1-mana Elves are concerned. Or the 1-mana Insect and Wirewood Symbiote. He's going to go with Heritage Druid.
If Caleb wanted to Price of Progress, he needed to do it at the end of Owen's turn, allowing him to untap with the Dryad Arbor and get mana. The ship's already sailed, so you can either play it as a Stone Rain that turn or hope that Owen commits another non-basic land to the board.
Well, there's a chance that. Okay, so he's actually going to leave the forest in play. Or excuse me, the Dryad Arbor in play. He picks up a forest. Puts a die on the Quirion Ranger just to let people know that he has used it. He'll replay the forest. And now he's going to, looks like, probably add some mana. There's a chance that he's attacking, but I would be surprised. Is this a natural order? This is. He's going to sacrifice a Birchlore Ranger. The big question here is this a lethal attack? Because Dryad Arbor will get to attack, as will Deathrite Shaman, as will Craterhoof Behemoth. Craterhoof Behemoth's trigger is going to be for 5, so you've got a 10-10. This is a lethal attack.
This is super lethal.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise. The Elves deck is really good at attacking for a lot pretty quickly.
And this is what I was talking about here, you know. It's the burn deck can win on turn 3 only with its absolute best hands. So without Grim Lavamancer or without Searing Blaze, Owen's a heavy favorite, and that's what you saw in game 1.
Scherer going to concede the game as he cannot stop Craterhoof and friends from attacking for a whole bunch of damage, and Turtenwald does win game number 1 here as Combo Elves up a game over Burn. We're going to head to the sideboards, and my red mage, Mr. Basic Mountain. What you got over there?
2 Searing Blaze, 3 Pyroblasts, 3 Shattering Sprees, 3 Mind Bay Traps, 4 Pyrostatic Pillars. The 2 copies of Searing Blaze being able to go up to 4 in the deck, that's a no-brainer. There's a couple other fringe options he has access to. Mind Break Trap can potentially be powerful in certain turns as Owen is likely to try to chain together multiple spells. The 4 copies of Pyrostatic Pillar can be good as well, as Owen, of course, is playing a lot of cheap spells. The problem with Pyrostatic Pillar is the alt deck can actually go into beatdown mode, where it's just attacking you with a bunch of creatures. So Pyrostatic Pillar is late to the party, can actually do more damage to Caleb than it can do to Owen. So a lot of this depends on the cards he wants to cut from the deck. In my experience, the 4 copies of Price of Progress are quite poor. The 4 copies of Goblin Guide are also pretty poor, as the elf deck is equipped with a lot of blockers. So those would be the 8 cards I'm looking to cut. With Caleb on the play, Goblin Guide's a little bit more reasonable. On the draw, it's an uphill battle to get that thing to connect. So the 4 copies of Price of Progress almost certainly need to come out. I would imagine those get replaced by the 2 copies of Searing Blaze and the 2 copies of Pyrostatic Pillar. And then on the draw, maybe Goblin Guide gets removed for additional copies of Pyrostatic Pillar and potentially Mind Break Trap as well.
On Turtenwald's side here, this is basically what we see a lot of nowadays from these Elves decks. They're splashing black for Thoughtseize, Cabal Therapy, and Abrupt Decay. 4-3-3 are the numbers on those cards, along with a couple of singletons for the Green Sun Zenith package, a Progenitus, a Gaddock, a Solid Pride Mage, a Scavenging Ooze, and an additional natural order in your matchups where you have to kill very quickly, and we are certainly in one of those. So I expect to see the other natural order come in. I like Scavenging Ooze a lot here. Solid Pride Mage is okay. I guess if you care about Sulfuric Vortex, that's a thing that you could bring in. I don't think that Turtenwald needs Progenitus. I actually think that's a little too slow, honestly.
Well, it just depends. Progenitus is really good in the games where Owen is being taxed by Grim Lavamancer, because natural ordering for a Craterhoof Behemoth doesn't happen in those games. Caleb's too good at pinning down Owen's board. In the games where it's just a pure race and Caleb is not really attacking Owen's creatures, Craterhoof Behemoth is the better target to go get, because it often kills the turn you natural order.
As it did that game.
On the draw, I do like Progenitus, as some mixture of Searing Blazes and Grim Lavamancer's might make it really challenging for Owen to set up a Craterhoof Behemoth kill. When Owen's on the play, it's a little less clear.
And as far as these black cards are concerned, again, Thoughtseize, Cabal Therapy, Abrupt Decay, I don't really care for any of these.
Nope.
Thoughtseize I don't love in the burn matchup. Yes, you can pay 2 life to take a 4 damage spell, sure. Cabal Therapy, you better pick right. And then Abrupt Decay, well, it's only got 8 targets in Goblin Guide and Grim Lavamancer, and I don't think that's what this matchup is about. I think it's about Owen trying to combo as fast as he possibly can.
Yeah, Owen wants to win before Caleb's 4th turn, as it's very likely that Caleb will win the game on turn 4. So things that allow him to play that game, that's great. The disruption doesn't really matter too much.
So both players are sideboarded. They're happy. If you guys are just joining us, we do appreciate it. Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, Star City Games Open Series here in Milwaukee. We've already crowned our Standard Open champion earlier this morning, Kevin Wang with Mono Black Devotion, defeating Adrian Sullivan in the final. So congratulations to him. His Legacy Open is not going as well as he would have liked. He's sitting at 1-2. But we turn our attention here to Owen Turtenwald, former Player of the Year, Star City Games Standard Open champion, and our first Standard Open in Indianapolis earlier this year. He's off to a beautiful start, 3-0 with Elves. He played this deck last weekend at the Charlotte Legacy Open. He said he really liked it, learned a lot from playing it, and now he's looking to capitalize on that experience this weekend, starting at 3-0.
Such a solid deck.
Yeah,
you can
really
play so many different roles, too. You can win very fast. You can actually just win with the beatdowns against certain opponents who are attacking your hand. You have Craterhoof Behemoth or Progenitus as natural order targets. Those give you 2 very divergent game plans. It's a very good deck.
Let's not forget, Owen Turtenwald, also a Legacy Grand Prix champion in Washington, D.C. with Blue, White, Red Delver. He's really the one that put that deck on the map. A lot of people mimicking his build still, but he has switched away from that deck and is going with the green creatures this go-around. You see Scheer's going to start with a Lava Spike yet again, looking to get the damage roll, and he does have a copy of Searing Blaze in his hand. That's mighty important.
Being able to Searing Blaze the elf player's first play is a huge factor in being able to win the game. Once their board develops, Searing Blaze doesn't do a lot.
Yep.
And a lot of the elf strips, Wirewood Symbiote allows it to play kind of a tricky game against some of your removal spells. gets very complicated.
Turtenwald going to go search out a Bayou right away here. This is kind of interesting because I think that he may be under the impression that, hey, those Price of Progresses are out of his deck. I can search up any land I want to. And we'll see if that's actually the case moving forward.
It's also possible he brought in the Abrupted case because of the threat of Grim Lavamancer, which is Caleb's best card by a mile in the matchup.
Oh, yeah. Nettle Sentinel's going to come in. And I think this is a situation here where you don't get to be choosy with what you Searing Blaze. You just get something off the table.
Yeah, yeah. You just got to cast it. Because the Elf deck has Gaia's Cradle, it's an enormous risk allowing Owen to get to his turn with any creatures in play. So you can't be too proud.
You know, we could see a turn here where Caleb decides he wants to go Lightning Bolt your Nettle Sentinel, play a Goblin Guide and attack, but I would much rather Searing Blaze the crap out of that thing.
Yeah, the problem is that Caleb doesn't have a third land in his hand, so there's no guarantee he's going to be able to kick the Searing Blaze for the remainder of the game.
And he's just going to pass the turn back, maybe with the thought process of, you know, I can maybe pick a better Elf to kill. You know, there's a chance that he's not in a rush, but you do bring up Gaia's Cradle being a real reason that you would want to kill something right away, as this is a glimpse into nature.
And I believe that Caleb needs to respond right now.
Not just going to do it just yet. There's a Forest. This is a Birchler Ranger. Well, there's no better time to respond than now.
Yeah, you can't let him get the second mana in play. You need to stop it right now.
Yeah, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to sacrifice it. Endured Mesa. He's going to go down to 19. We'll see him search out a basic mountain. And I believe he will kill Nettle Sentinel here just as fast as he possibly can and make sure that Birchler Ranger cannot tap along with Nettle Sentinel to provide more green mana. As the combination of Sentinel along with Birchler Ranger lets him really just keep going.
Yeah. Also, by nipping it in the bud here, assuming that Owen's turn ends with just playing a Birchler Ranger and drawing a card, it opens up the door for Goblin Guide to connect at least once.
Yeah, which is all you can really ask for with that card in this matchup. It's unlikely that that card's going to connect a bunch, but the fact that it can now is really, really good. As Scherer is going to untap after the Searing Blaze, he will take a draw. It's another copy of Lava Spike. Now, he could deal 6 here this turn if he wanted with a Spike and a Bolt and pass the turn back, but I actually like getting in with the Guide because I think the chances that Owen blocks is pretty low, and if he does block, you're probably pretty happy.
Yeah, the thing is, the Lava Spike and the Lightning Bolt in Caleb's hand, that's always going to be 3 damage guaranteed. There's no guarantee this Goblin Guy gets to attack for the remainder of the game.
Sure.
So you have to cash in the 2 damage while the getting's good.
Down to 11 goes Turtenwald. I would want to fire out the Lava Spike here this turn if I were in Scherer's seat. There's the potential to leave a Bolt up, but I think this situation here, it's like, is my Bolt going to get any better if I'm going towards the creatures? I would be a little surprised if it were, but, you know, you can wait on the Spike, perhaps.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter either way. It does give Caleb a little bit of insurance in case Owen starts doing something really weird this turn, and he can just cash it in the following turn for 3 points of damage the same way. So I actually like just leaving up Bolt this turn. Birchler
Ranger feeling pretty tough coming into the red zone, going to knock Scherer down to 18. See if Turtenwald's got anything to do on this turn. You saw him play a Wooded Foothills before attacking, excuse me.
Owen's hand is Natural Order and lands.
That's not a good hand.
I mean, when the Elf player starts on turn 3 with Attack You with Birchler Ranger, there's something wrong with their hand.
Yeah. And he's got to be careful how he plays lands here. No Bolt going to get fired off there. How do you feel about that?
He needs to cast something because his hand now has two mana spells in it. So he needs to play a 1 mana spell there. So if he draws a land, he has the ability to play a 2-drop and a 1-drop spell.
Mm-hmm.
He can't waste mana in this spot.
I think a little too focused on using that Lightning Bolt as a removal spell. You have to imagine that something's up here, as you did mention. If your opponent does not play anything on turn 3, because right now if he had fired off that Bolt, I'm not saying that Owen would certainly be dead, because he could, of course, activate the Wooded Foothills, get a Dried Arbor and block, but chances are he would be dead.
Yeah, I mean, he has Lava Spike and Lightning Bolt in hand, Owen's at 9. So if he had Bolt at the end of the turn, it frees him up to draw either a land or a 1-mana Bolt to kill him this turn.
And he drew a Chain Lightning for the turn. So he has 3 1-mana bolts in his hand right now. The question is, can he get them all out of his hand before Turtenwald kills him? It looks like the answer is going to be yes, but he's got to fire off something here.
Yeah, the burn deck is a combo deck in a lot of matchups, and it's just about mana efficiency.
There's a Spike. Turtenwald's going to go down to 6. Scherer's going to pass the turn back. Turtenwald will now go down to 5. We'll see what land he wants to search up. He does not want to draw Heritage Druid for the turn, so you saw him sacrifice that away. Chances are he'll get a Dried Arbor, and he does. And again, he does have a copy of Natural Order in his hand right now. It's not the most exciting card, but it is something.
And this is, I believe, another misstep by Caleb. I believe that I would have held up 2 mana this turn because it gives you the option of Price of Progressing if Owen plays into it. If not, you can still Bolt at the end of the turn, untap, and chain and Spike and still present lethal.
Sure. Turtenwald with a very land-heavy hand. He's at 5. Scherer considering what he wants to do with the Lightning, but it looks like he may be going towards a Dryad Arbor here, as Turtenwald has not been allowed to draw a card just yet.
Well, I think if he's going to kill anything, it needs to be Birchlore Ranger, because the Dryad Arbor is another land in play for Price of Progress, and the Birchlore Ranger has a much more threatening text box.
Yeah, I guess, and you see Turtenwald picks up a Cradle. I think Caleb is trying to play a longer game than he needs to.
Yeah.
You know, given what Turtenwald did on his 3rd turn, there's really no reason to try to interact with him at this point, because it's obvious that he can't really present very much as he attacks with the Birchlore Ranger again. Just past the turn back, Scheer's going to draw his card very, very quickly. That's a copy of Riftbolt that he can suspend if he'd like, but he's going to start by attacking here for 2. Turtenwald will reveal a Green Sun Zenith. He's going to take 2 and go down to 3. And we'll see a Chain Lightning finish things off, potentially. And may go with Price of Progress. I would not show Price in this situation.
Yeah.
As he will chain Turtenwald and get the job done. So Caleb Scherer is going to win in game number 2. Burn and Elves are going to a 3rd one.
Fairly tight game. All told, I mean, Owen had a lot of draws there to potentially win that game. In this matchup, when Caleb gets to a spot where Owen is in range, he needs to both play around the things that Owen could potentially do to win the game and make sure that he's winning the game in the fastest possible time frame, because the Elves deck can win from a very low base of resources. In that game, there was a little bit of indecision. It felt like, well, does he want to contain Owen's board? Exactly what turn is he trying to win this game on?
Yeah, it seemed like some of the planning there, he kind of went in a couple different directions. Obviously able to close the game out because Turtenwald flooded out pretty badly there, but he's got to have one cohesive game plan the entire time. As you mentioned, he wants to be able to interact a little bit, but still kill Turtenwald as fast as he possibly can, because Turtenwald can kill him so quickly.
Yes. And that's why Grim Lava Mancer is such an important tool. And Searing Blaze as well. It plays both roles of containing Owen's board while also dealing damage to Owen. The bolts and the chain lightnings, using them on Owen's creatures, it's fine to do that in certain circumstances, but you run out of resources. Caleb needs to get Owen from 20 to 0. It will primarily be through spells, as it's going to be really hard to attack, especially when he's on the draw. Mm-hmm. So there's an enormous opportunity cost of using your chain lightnings and lightning bolts to kill Owen's board. You need the recurring sources of damage like Grim Lava Mancer that are essentially free, or Searing Blaze, which does double duty.
Now, there's a card here in Turtenwald's sideboard that I'm a little bit interested in. And that card, or excuse me, not in Turtenwald's, in Scheer's sideboard, and that card's Pyrostatic Pillar. Any love for this card, especially when on the draw? I could see it on the play, but do you like it at all?
I'm not a big fan of it on the draw because Owen can actually just present a board and start attacking.
Okay.
Whereas when Pyrostatic Pillar's in play, it's actually prohibitive for Caleb as well. So I don't mind Pyrostatic Pillar on the play, as Pyrostatic Pillar, Goblin Guide into Pyrostatic Pillar, or especially Grim Lava Mancer to Pyrostatic Pillar, is a pretty strong opening against Elves. But on the draw, there's too big of a threat of Owen just spending the first 2 turns developing a large board, and then Pyrostatic Pillar becomes uncastable. Now, with that said, Caleb does have a lot of weak cards in his deck in the matchup. He has the 4 copies of Price of Progress. The Sulfuric Vortexes aren't very good here. Goblin Guide, again, on the draw, I'm not a big fan of. So there are some flex slots to have some high upside adds to the deck, and Pyrostatic Pillar is very powerful in a percentage of games. But on the draw, I'm not a huge fan.
Being talked to here on Twitter by Julian Nab, of the reigning BOM champion with Elves. He said, can we get a deck tech with Owen? People would surely like to see his list. I know I do. # green by popular demand. Oh, we know. We know you love the Elves, Julian.
Yep.
We'll see what we can do. No promises. Turtenwald's deck list, again, pretty stock. No Rurik Thar. I know Alex Fay asked that question on Twitter if he does have one of those. We've seen lists that do have one Rurik Thar, Natural Order, or Green Sun Zenith for. None of those, though. Just 2 copies of Crater of Behemoth. He's got a Progenitus in the sideboard, Gaddock Tiga, Kasali Pride Manta, Scavenging Ooze as well as bullet targets in the board here. But no Rurik Thar this go around.
Yeah.
You know, that card can be very powerful in the Elves deck in certain matchups.
Yep.
Kind of the combo killer, really. And it's kind of unique that Elves actually has a card that they can Natural Order for that really does just give them a huge leg up against combo. But you see Turtenwald actually taking the approach here with the black discard spells and Thoughtseizing and Cabal Therapy to strengthen his combo matchup.
A little less fancy, but I'm a big fan of the discard spells. They're super versatile.
Thoughtseizing is a good magic card.
Thoughtseizing and Cabal Therapy can also come in against decks like Sneak and Show, whereas Rurik Thar provides you very little utility there.
But it has reach.
It does have reach.
Have you considered that?
It can block Bristlebrand once.
It can block Emrakul, too.
Nice.
Yeah, that's
well,
really...
if you have 6 other permanents to sacrifice as your chump blocking.
Well, it has 2 heads.
Sure.
So, not...
It counts as 2.
I'm not sure how that matters, but it has 2 heads. Turtenwald going to take a look at his hand. Looks like Scherer waiting very patiently.
Again, Grim Lavamancer and Searing Blaze. Those are Caleb's big cards here.
Yep. A few less Lava Spikes, a little more interaction.
The Lava Spikes are fine here, too. It's the 2-mana spells where your hand can get bottlenecked. And Lava Spike is also important in giving food for Grim Lavamancer, which is a really important tool for Caleb in the matchup.
Well, he's got at least one spike. Looks like he's happy. Turtenwald's going to go down to 19. We'll see what land he does want to search for with this Wooded Foothills and see what his turn 1 play is going to be.
There's a lot of decks in Legacy that play a couple fetch lands, you know, to go get their Splash Color, their Bayou, or their Savannah, but they could essentially be forests in a lot of matchups. And as a burn player, you are never happier than when you see your opponent crack a fetch land that isn't a raw requirement for them to have in the deck.
A Deathrite Shaman does show up to the party. A Price of Progress, the first draw here for Scherer. He's going to play a Mountain. You wonder if that bolt's going to go towards the Shaman, if you're going to Lava Spike here. Now, how do you feel about this one?
He might have to do it on the draw, but this is what I'm talking about, why it's important for Searing Blaze and Grim Lavamancer to show up.
Do you go mulligan for those cards, maybe?
No, the deck mulligans too poorly.
Okay.
You had to keep loose 7-card hands because you're essentially a Storm deck in a lot of matchups. You need all your spells.
Now, there's a very real possibility here that Turtenwald kept a 1-lander. That wouldn't surprise me at all, given his pause when he kept his opening hand, and it looks like he only does have 1 land. So Scherer sets his hand down. He's waiting patiently, and now the former player of the year is going to figure out how he works himself out of this situation. If there is a deck that can operate on 1 land, it is definitely Combo Elves.
Yeah, and even though this looks bad for Owen, if he can trade his creatures for bolts out of Caleb's hand, he'll eventually be able to win the game. And it looks like Owen is only sort of stuck on lands with Quarian Ranger.
There's a Birch Lore. He's just going to pass the turn back. So, Scherer, going to draw a copy of Flame Rift. He can start going upstairs if he'd like. There's a Mountain.
Can't go downstairs. Can only go upstairs.
That's true. That's true. Could be 4 to everybody.
Best deal in Legacy. 2 mana, 8 damage.
I'm not even
Doesn't get any better than that.
going to dignify that with a response.
That's the best rate.
Yep. It's the best something. You see him bring the Flame Rift to the front, and he will cast that.
Yes.
8 to everybody. That's not true. 4 to everybody, 8 total.
Let's get in the dirt.
Yep. That's officially where we are. You could not be happier right now.
Oh, I am. Yeah, this is great.
Windswept Heath to draw, but Turtenwald, he has a copy of Glimpse of Nature, and it might be time to have some real fun here.
Oh, there's a good chance Caleb's dead this turn.
Yeah. There's a Nettle Sentinel. Trigger that. Turtenwald hasn't played a land yet this turn. Would love to pick up a Cradle. Instead, he'll play a Quarian Ranger. He'll use the Quarian Ranger, excuse me. Still hasn't played a land yet. The reason for that, again, is he's trying to run into a Cradle.
Yeah, if he runs into a Cradle, then he can have just an insane turn.
Again, Caleb can't interact here. You know, you can't fire off a Fire Blast in this situation.
Well,
at least I don't think so.
He told Owen to stop, so he might be considering snapping this off on the Birchlore Ranger, which is essentially admitting defeat. I mean, at that point, Owen could actually just build up a board and attack Caleb to death.
Yeah. There's Windswept Heath. Turtenwald actually going to get a land out of his deck first before he does anything.
I understand the instinct that Caleb has right now of I need to stop this, but the die has been cast.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't win the game by Fire Blasting. You just have to hope that all Owen does this turn is build up a board, and you can kill him over the course of 2 turns.
Yeah, I agree with you. So there's your forest. This is a Heritage Druid. That's a trigger from Glimpse. It's showtime, folks. 3 green. Let's make it 2. Untap the Nettle Sentinel. Take a draw. 1 green. Take a draw. Looks like he may have ran himself into a Cradle, maybe a Natural Order as well. Not sure if he has anything else sweet to do. He's already used those elves over to the side. Hasn't used those Quarian Rangers yet. So you see him kind of organize things, make sure he knows where he's at. Has 1 green floating.
There also may be some concern on Owen's side about occasionally these burn lists have something like Volcanic Fallout in the sideboard, so something to keep in mind.
4 mana. How about a Natural Order? Nettle Sentinel on tap. Owen wondering, is that okay with you? He's going to go through the deck. Is it Progenitus, or will it be Crater of Behemoth? Excuse me. It's the Behemoth. So you've got a trigger here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Is 12 plus, yeah.
I think, so Nettle Sentinel, I don't think can attack this turn. He is going to untap a creature, so he can attack with something.
Right, he just gets his Spiritual Arranger and then...
He gets to attack here. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 damage. That's sweet.
Critterhoof Behemoth is exactly like Overrun and Limited. You look at a board, it's kind of complicated, it's bogged down, and you can't really noodle through the mass, so you just cast Overrun and hope, and you think it's probably close whether or not your opponent's dead, and it turns out that